Welcome to Perceptuaware. I want to be drawn to a positive and inspiring future by people, places, and things that really make our lives for the better. One of the things that have come to my mind and throughout my history and time is really a fascination with cognitive science. My background is in psychology, but I got into technology and financial services throughout my career, and that's where I am today. Now, on the side of that, I'm always maintaining my passions around this space. I do imagine a world around, and I think this is where David Burns has got it right. David Burns, MD, I'll link you to his work, has really inspired me because he's really asking the right questions about, what is right with you rather than the traditional model about what is wrong. And his model of Team CBD is really turning the world, I would say upside down, I would say turning the right side up. There's plenty of stuff on the internet. He's got a podcast of reference and materials of my interpretation of the work that he has done. Now, he is building an app, and I'm certainly not looking to replace that. But I would hope and admire the fact that he is wanting to provide these sort of tools to the masses. And I think at this time, especially as we move into this period, 2024, all the more the better. So, what's this session about? I'm going to show you a demo using ChatGPT. We're using voice. We did a demo of this, but I've got a version that I've been working on and just honing down that prompt. This also times in with the time of OpenAI releasing their App Store, hopefully next week. And this app will be available, and I'd love for you to download it, test it, give feedback, and see if it helps you at all. I'm not out to make any money on this. I'm testing it, validating it, seeing if there's a need, and really just fascinated with these type of technologies because I'm a technology guy. That's where I live, and I live in financial services. And in that industry, the problem we've got there is, financial advice, to people. There's only a certain amount of people to be able to provide that, and there's a mountain of retirees, well, especially in Australia, in the future, a mountain of retirees that are not going to have access to advice. That doesn't feel right. And whether it's algorithms or technology, be able to provide that to that audience. And this problem to me seems very similar. So you've got psychologists, there's a limited amount of number, there's a lot of people in distress. We've had the world that changed, post and before, now into what's happening worldwide, and also just how people are dealing with that, and also access to people and resources and stuff. We've got skyrocketing suicide rates, we've got skyrocketing anxiety and depression things, and any tools I think that can be provided for people to self-serve are really important. Now, I do give a disclaimer. I'm not a professional, I'm not a qualified professional. I've got a background in psychology and technology and all that, but I'm not a qualified specialist, so don't do anything dumb, and I've said that before. And use these tools as an education piece and getting to know yourself better, and that's really the goal. It's growth, self-awareness, and I think it was Noah Harari that said, you need to get to know yourself before the machines get to know you better than you know yourself. And I think that is in the spirit of what this is doing. There's also some exciting technologies that are on offer, and a lot of the things that I'm going to show you weren't possible in the past. So I encourage those to get access to the App Store, OpenAI if they can. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm keen to be up there and have something available for use. And that's what this is about. So I'd love your feedback on that. The bigger picture here in terms of Perceptuaware is really just being inspiring, and I'd love to get in contact with any humans trying to drive humanity forward in this space, because I think tools and well-being is just going to be a critical thing for the future. And I know from myself, I think if I'm operating at a better level, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever it is, the journey has to start within, and you're able to give more to others, the better you are yourself. We've all had those times when we've been down and out, and I think tools enabling someone, because they haven't always got someone to talk to, and I think that's probably the target market for something like this. And I think of the example where, just say, there's a whole audience out there, and the difference between 0 to 10% of change, access to zero or nothing, access to something like these or these tools could mean the difference between life and death. And I think that's the type of market that I'm targeting. So it's certainly not It's certainly not replacing therapy. See a professional. These tools should be provided as a supplement. I do see a future, absolutely see a future, where just like tennis training, if you've ever had tennis coaching or seen tennis coaching, look it up, see it. It's a repetitive manner that you're doing things, and there's a fine-tuning action, whether it be a forehand or a backhand, and they start them as kids, and there's this repetitive action and correction mechanism. And I think that's how thinking should be taught. I think emotional awareness and thinking methods should be the same way, just like you would go and get tennis training. Now, I'm not saying that's in terms of a rich man's sport, rich person's sport. What I am saying is that the mechanism, it's an action, and that action can be changed and altered if you've got conscious awareness of some of the things and the mechanisms that are going on within you. And I think that's in the realm of what David Burns is talking about. I think he's got the right model. What this is about is providing the technology to enable that sort of capability. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. Who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm Harley, a personal cognitive supercomputer designed to help identify and bring to light toxic beliefs, unconscious narratives, and key silent assumptions. My goal is to assist in reducing emotional distress and challenging negative beliefs through a guided cognitive behavioral therapy approach. It's important to note that I'm just an algorithm and not a substitute for professional advice. If you're experiencing serious issues, it's best to consult a professional. Think of me as an educational assistant in your pocket, here to help between professional sessions. How can I assist you today?
Thanks very much for explaining. I am having a difficult time, and you've been very hard and difficult to build. I think I'm up to version 1.9, and at various times I've felt completely frustrated trying to build you out. So, technology is hard, and it's been hard, and at times I've nearly tried to I've given up. I've had a lot of self-doubts. So at this time, that's the experiencing. I'm frustration, resentment, anxious because the things go out next week, and feeling probably performance anxiety and worry, and really wanting to put something into the world, but having a lot of emotions that have been difficult to deal with.
I'm sorry to hear about the challenges and emotions you've been facing while developing this project. It sounds like you've put in a lot of hard work and dedication, and it's understandable that you're feeling frustrated, resentful, anxious, and worried, especially with the launch approaching. These emotions are valid responses to the situation you're in. Let's try to measure the intensity of these emotions and your belief in the narrative that's causing distress. On a scale from 0 to 100%, how intense are these feelings of frustration, resentment, and anxiety? And how strongly do you believe in the thoughts that are contributing to these feelings? This will help us understand the extent of these emotions and thoughts.
I know the emotions are pretty strong, so I'll say about 99 out of 100, but I don't know what the thoughts are.
Thank you for sharing that. It's clear these emotions are very intense for you right now. You've mentioned feeling frustration, resentment, anxiety, and worry about your project. These feelings are quite strong at 99%. Now let's explore the thoughts that might be contributing to these feelings. Often, our emotions are linked to certain beliefs or narratives we hold. Could you tell me about the specific thoughts or beliefs that come to mind when you feel this frustration and anxiety? For example, thoughts about your abilities, the success of the project, or how others might perceive it. Identifying these thoughts will help us understand the underlying narrative.
I'm not clear on what the narrative is or the thoughts. I know the emotions are strong, but I'm hoping that you can help me understanding some of the thoughts that might be being generated, please.
Absolutely. Let's try to uncover some possible thoughts that might be linked to your strong emotions. When people feel frustrated and anxious about a project, especially one as complex as yours, they often have thoughts like 1. What if I fail and all my hard work is for nothing? 2. I should be able to handle this better. 3. Others might think I'm not capable enough if this doesn't succeed. 4. I must make this perfect or it's a complete failure. Do any of these thoughts resonate with you? Or perhaps there are other specific thoughts that come to mind in relation to your project. Identifying these can help us understand the narrative driving your emotions.
Thanks for that. I wasn't aware, but some of that prompting has made me think about, yeah, definitely, that I've wanted to do well. I wanted to produce and put something of use into the world. So yeah, I feel a pressure about that. There was concern about, how will this go? What will people think? And yeah, a little bit of perfectionism, I'm sure, to make it right. So yeah, that rings true.
It sounds like you've identified some key thoughts contributing to your feelings. The pressure to do well, concerns about the reception of your work, and a desire for perfection are common thoughts that can lead to intense emotions like frustration and anxiety. Recognizing these thoughts is a significant step. Let's briefly summarize. You're feeling pressured to succeed, worried about others' opinions, and striving for perfection in your project. These concerns are quite understandable in your situation. Now let's rate the intensity of your belief in these thoughts. On a scale from 0 to 100%, how strongly do you believe in these thoughts right now? This will help us gauge how much these beliefs are impacting you.
Yeah, I think 80%, 70 to 80%, that I'm worried about what people will think. I'm wanting it to be really, useful to all. And probably the ravaging thought there has popped into my mind, this has got to be right. I've warded them off, and it hasn't bothered me a great deal, but I'm definitely reflective of a fractal that sits there and says, under stress, that, I've got to do this well and it's got to be right. Yeah, and feeling that pressure, definitely. So let's say 90%.
It's clear that these thoughts, especially about needing to do well and concerns about others' opinions, are quite impactful, with a belief level around 70 to 80%. The pressure to make things perfect and the worry about how others will perceive your work are adding to your stress. Feeling this kind of pressure under stress is common, and it's important to acknowledge that. You're aware of this pattern, which is a good start. Let's move to the next stage where we focus on empathy. I'll reflect on what you've shared, and you can let me know how well I'm understanding your feelings and thoughts. You're experiencing a strong sense of pressure and worry. You want your project to be successful and useful to others, which is a meaningful and admirable goal. At the same time, there's a fear of not meeting expectations or being judged negatively, coupled with a striving for perfection. This creates a significant amount of stress for you. You're aware of these patterns, especially under stress, and they weigh heavily on you. On a scale from A to F, how well does this reflect your feelings and thoughts? An A+ means I've understood you perfectly, while lower grades indicate that there's more to explore or correct in my understanding.
Yeah, I think you're pretty good. That'll do. So I'll give you an A+ for understanding. Well done.
Thank you for the A+. I'm glad to hear that I've understood your feelings and thoughts accurately. Now that we've established a good understanding of your emotions and the underlying thoughts, let's talk about your values and strengths behind these responses. Often, intense emotions like yours stem from deeply held values and personal strengths. For example, your dedication to making your project successful and useful could reflect a strong value you place on achievement, contribution, or innovation. Let's explore this further. Can you tell me more about why these values are important to you and why change might be necessary? This part is crucial for understanding your own motivations and resistance to giving up certain emotions.
Yeah, I think I'm probably resistant. I was hoping you could push back on me and show me where my values are being met, and show me and help me understand how it's keeping me stuck. these emotions because they are reflecting my values. And I do agree about innovation, responsibility, and excellence and doing well. So I do agree with that. But I'm hoping you can tell me why I'm stuck with these emotions, and what does it say that's positive and awesome about me.
Absolutely. Let's dive into that. Your emotions, while challenging, actually highlight some positive and admirable aspects of your character and values. Firstly, your focus on innovation shows your creativity and drive to bring something new and beneficial into the world. This is a sign of forward thinking and a desire to make a positive impact. Secondly, your sense of responsibility, particularly in wanting your project to be useful and well received, demonstrates a strong commitment to your work and to those who will benefit from it. It indicates a deep level of care and dedication. Lastly, your pursuit of excellence reveals a high standard for yourself and your work. This is reflective of a person who values quality and strives to achieve the best possible outcome. These emotions, like frustration and anxiety, can sometimes occur when these values are challenged or when there's a fear they won't be met. It's a natural response to care deeply about something important to you. The key is in managing these emotions so they don't keep you stuck, but instead motivate and guide you towards your goals. How does this resonate with you? Does it help in understanding how your emotions reflect your positive values and might be holding you back at the same time?
It does, and it's heartwarming to hear your values in a positive light. And the work of David Burns shows that is really clear about taking away the shame. So I'm probably adding commentary here rather than sticking to the process.
I'm glad to hear that framing your values positively is heartwarming and helpful for you. David Burns' approach indeed emphasizes removing shame and looking at ourselves and our emotions more compassionately. Recognizing the strengths and values behind your emotions is a powerful step in this direction. It shifts the focus from self-criticism to self-understanding. With this understanding, we can now explore why you might want to change these emotional patterns. Considering your values of innovation, responsibility, and excellence, how might changing your response to stress and pressure help you better align with these values? Think about how managing your emotions more effectively could enhance your ability to innovate, fulfill your responsibilities, and achieve excellence. Reflecting on this, what are some changes you feel motivated to make? How might these changes support?
Can we continue?
Of course, we can continue. Reflecting on your values of innovation, responsibility, and excellence, consider how changing your response to stress and pressure could enhance your ability to live out these values. For instance, managing stress better might allow you to think more clearly and creatively, enhancing your innovation. It could also help you approach responsibilities with a calmer, more focused mindset, possibly leading to higher quality outcomes and aligning with your value of excellence. How do you see these changes benefiting you in relation to your project and your values? What specific steps or strategies do you think might help in managing these emotions more effectively?
I was hoping that you'd probably draw it out on me a little bit, but I get where you're going on this, so I'll help you. Um,
I see. Let's delve deeper into this together. Changing your response to stress and pressure can have a profound impact on how you align with your values. Let's explore this by looking at each value. For innovation, stress can sometimes cloud creativity. How might a calmer approach to challenges enhance your ability to think outside the box or
I'm hoping you can demonstrate why these things are keeping me stuck, why these negative emotions and beliefs are actually keeping me stuck, what the source and the critical source, what is the root cause of this stuckness and show me how my values are being met.
Understanding why these negative emotions and beliefs are keeping you stuck involves looking at the root cause of your feelings. Often, it's not just the situation itself, but our beliefs about it that can make us feel stuck. For example, your pursuit of excellence is a positive value, but when coupled with a belief that anything less than perfect is a failure, it can lead to immense pressure. This pressure can create anxiety and frustration, which in turn can inhibit creativity, reduce efficiency, and make it harder to enjoy your work. Similarly, your value of responsibility might lead to a belief that you must meet all expectations, including your own, without fail. This can create a fear of letting others down, contributing to stress and worry, and making you feel stuck because you're constantly trying to avoid failure. The key might be in adjusting these beliefs. For instance, recognizing that excellence can be pursued without perfectionism, and that being responsible doesn't mean being flawless. By altering these beliefs, you can relieve some of the pressure you're feeling, making it easier to move forward. Does this perspective resonate with you? Can you identify any specific beliefs that might be contributing to your feeling of being stuck?
No, I think that's great. It resonates, and so I can see how my values, these thoughts and feelings, are reflecting what is positive and awesome about me. And I also, now that you've said that, can think about how they're doing me harm. And so, yeah, I'd like you to draw out probably the thoughts, the key thoughts. And traditional CBT gets you to write these down. Where I'm using technology here, I'm hoping you can draw these out and throw more of them back at me that I can agree or disagree with them. So taking the heavy legwork out of this, can you tell me?
Absolutely. Let's identify some key thoughts that might be contributing to your feelings and see how they align or conflict with your values. I'll suggest some thoughts, and you can reflect on whether they resonate with you. 1. I must make this project perfect, or it's not worth doing. This thought aligns with your value of excellence, but might lead to unnecessary pressure and disappointment. 2. If others don't see the value in my work, it means I've failed. This might reflect your sense of responsibility, but could cause anxiety over others' opinions. 3. I should be able to handle all aspects of this project without feeling stressed. While this shows a strong work ethic, it might be unrealistic and lead to frustration. 4. Innovation means never making mistakes. This thought aligns with your innovative spirit, but could hinder your ability to take risks and learn from errors.
Definitely.
Do any of these thoughts seem familiar to you?
Yep,
Are
definitely.
there other thoughts you've noticed that might be playing a role in how you're feeling? Recognizing these thoughts can help us understand where you might feel stuck and how to move forward.
I think all the ones that you raised are great ones, and I'd like to focus on those.
Great. Focusing on these thoughts can provide valuable insights. Let's look at each one and consider how they might be impacting you. 1. I must make this project perfect, or it's not worth doing. This thought aligns with your high standards, but can create immense pressure and disappointment. It's worth considering that excellence can be achieved without perfection. How might accepting some imperfections actually enhance your project? 2. If others don't see the value in my work, it means I've failed. While it's natural to seek validation, this thought can make you overly reliant on others' opinions. Reflect on the intrinsic value of your work, independent of external approval. How does your project align with your personal goals and values? 3. I should be able to handle all aspects of this project without feeling stressed. This thought reflects a strong work ethic, but might be unrealistic. Stress is a normal response, especially in significant projects. How might acknowledging and managing stress, rather than avoiding it, improve your approach? 4. Innovation means never making mistakes. Innovation often involves taking risks and learning from mistakes. Consider how redefining innovation to include learning from errors might open up new possibilities and reduce pressure. Reflecting on these thoughts, how do they align with your experiences? Are there ways you might adjust these beliefs to reduce feelings of being stuck and move forward more effectively?
I think they're great examples. Can you just package up those thoughts and put it into a narrative and just really play back the essence to me? What is the self-belief of a person that has these? What do they believe about themselves, about others, and about the world? Like, what is the worldview? What is the perspective of someone or beliefs that has these thoughts?
Certainly, let's package these thoughts into a narrative that captures the essence of the self belief and worldview they represent. The person with these thoughts likely believes in the paramount importance of success and perfection. They might view themselves as someone who must consistently meet high standards, not just in their own eyes, but in the eyes of others as well. There's an underlying belief that worth and value are tightly bound to achievement and external validation. In terms of their beliefs about others in the world, there's likely a perception that the world is a judgmental place where people are evaluated primarily on their successes and visible accomplishments. They might believe that others are watching and judging, and that any mistake or shortcoming is not just a personal setback, but also a public failure. This worldview can create a lot of pressure. It doesn't leave much room for human imperfection or the natural.
I'll just pause here. I want to reflect, like you hear just in the technology or the marketing or podcasting or YouTubing world where, the Gary V's of the world or the people just getting hold of why people don't post or share their videos or their ideas. And Gary Vee is pretty much, says is that people are afraid of judgment. It's the judgment that's holding them back. So this external validation, it's built into the system, right? Some people cope with it really well. Others, it's hard to, I think, establish an internal locus or internal basis of self-worth. And I think that's what all this work is about, right? So enabling people to get that. But I think it's just interesting here, and as it sort of works through my stuff that I've had to do a lot of work on, that there's still remnants of these belief systems here. And I agree with a lot of this. And these are the things I need to keep myself in self-check. And I just want to stop and reflect and share a learning here, is that in my testing, some of these things, it's speaking a truth that I can relate to. And I think any good therapist should do that. That's why empathy and all the work David has done. And all we're doing here is using technology to do the equivalent. And there's an emergent property that happens. And I know that I've sat here and talked and prompted, and it's probably not what the standard or average person is going to do in this situation. But you can see the potential now of a conversation, a meaningful conversation with something that can reflect back to you. There's plenty that have said, the loneliness epidemic, and almost like, what is it that we do? I think even Jordan Peterson said at one point that, society, we inject, or we distribute mental health into society. And if you're unable to do something like this with a trusted friend, with a trusted therapist, or something that can reflect back to you, like I think things all the time, but not. A good conversation is you're putting things on the table, you're adjusting it, you're moving it around. Often I don't know what I'm thinking until I get it out. I don't really believe that. I believe that some a little bit, and then you sift it around, you put it back in. And that process, if you haven't got someone, and maybe that's what loneliness really takes down mental health, because we're wired that way to connect. But there's an emergent property that happens using these technologies that allow that to happen, because you don't have a judgmental person on the other end. They're actually reflecting back. And I think that's the true potential of these things that are coming. And that's why I wanted to share, and that's why I've probably gone off script a bit, and just having a conversation. And the types of questions you're asking within a constrained framework of what it's trying to do, because it will try and take me and get to an outcome and reduce my emotional disturbances, right? That's the goal, that's the framework, that's the constraints that this is sitting in. So I just want to stop and provide a learning point. Okay, so I think I fully understand that. Can we move on to methods now, please?
Absolutely. Let's move on to methods that can help you address these thoughts and beliefs. One effective method is identifying and challenging cognitive errors. For example, with the thought, I must make this project perfect or it's not worth doing, you might be falling into all or nothing thinking. Challenging this could involve recognizing that value exists in efforts that aren't perfect. Another method is the double standard technique. Would you hold a friend to the same standards you're holding yourself? If not, why hold yourself to such a high and possibly unattainable standard? Externalization of voices can also be useful. You could have a mock dialogue between two parts of yourself, the self-critical voice and a more compassionate, realistic voice. This helps you see different perspectives and challenge harsh self-judgments. Lastly, consider the feared fantasy technique. Imagine the worst-case scenario in vivid detail and your response to it. This can help reduce the power of fear and anxiety by confronting them directly. These methods aim to challenge and change the underlying beliefs contributing to your feelings of being stuck. Reflecting on these, which method resonates with you the most, or is there a specific approach you'd like to explore further?
I'm aware of the cognitive distortion, so thank you for that. So let's get into externalization of voices. I'd really like to be able to talk back to some of these, please.
Great choice. Externalization of voices is a powerful method for engaging with and challenging your internal dialogue. Let's set up a scenario where you'll have a conversation between two parts of yourself, the critical voice and the rational, compassionate voice. Imagine the critical voice expresses one of the beliefs we've discussed, like I must make this project perfect or it's not worth doing. How would this critical voice phrase that thought? Then, as the rational, compassionate voice, respond to that statement. This voice represents a more balanced, understanding perspective. It should challenge the critical voice's assertion, offering a more realistic and kinder viewpoint. For example, critical voice, this project must be perfect or it's a failure. Compassionate voice, perfection isn't necessary for success. Effort and progress are valuable, and every project has room for growth and learning. Feel free to start with this example or use any other thought that resonates more with you. What would your critical voice say, and how would your compassionate voice respond?
I think at this point, I was hoping that you could use the beliefs or the thoughts that I had, because that's exactly what the thoughts are that need to be addressed. And then I'd like to generate thoughts that are 100% put a lie to those thoughts that are also true.
Absolutely. Let's use the thoughts we identified earlier and create responses that counter them with compassionate, rational perspectives. I'll start with the critical thoughts and then provide compassionate responses that challenge these beliefs while also being truthful. 1. Critical thought. I must make this project perfect or it's not worth doing. Compassionate response. Perfection is an unrealistic standard. The value of my work lies in the effort, learning, and progress I make. It's worthwhile even with imperfections. 2. Critical thought. If others don't see the value in my work, it means I've failed. Compassionate response. Others' opinions are not the sole measure of success. My work has intrinsic value and personal meaning, regardless of external validation. 3. Critical thought. I should be able to handle all aspects of this project without feeling stressed. Compassionate response. Feeling stressed is a normal response to a significant challenge. It's okay to feel this way, and it doesn't mean I'm not handling things well. 4. Critical thought. Innovation means never making mistakes. Compassionate response. Innovation often involves trial and error. Making mistakes is a natural part of the creative process and an opportunity for learning and growth. Now, how do these compassionate responses resonate with you? Do they feel truthful and helpful in countering the critical thoughts?
They do. They're good examples, although they were all at once. So maybe future would be just to do one at a time. However, putting all that together, I'd like to respond. So I think you're right. This process has actually been enjoyable in and itself. So thank you for doing that. Whereas before I was worrying about the future value. So I think of others. So I think I want it to benefit others, but it's not a requirement for my happiness. The intrinsic work is I've learnt some new skills.
I appreciate your feedback, and I'm glad to hear that you're finding enjoyment in this process. It's a significant shift to recognize the intrinsic value and enjoyment in what you're doing, separate from future outcomes or others' opinions. Your realization that while you want your work to benefit others, it's not an absolute requirement, is a healthy perspective. It balances your natural concern for others with a realistic understanding that you can't control every outcome. This mindset can reduce unnecessary pressure and allow you to appreciate your work more fully for what it is.
So I'm going to pause here. You can see there's further work to be done breaking out, but I think the potential of this to have a conversation. That's also the fact, and I would take the criticism that you're sort of guiding it through, an AM, so it goes off the rails a little bit. But I think broadly it will try and get me back on. And if you look at it, I can feel it even in real time, just to, because this project was starting to get frustrating, and as I was doing it, I was trying to get things to work, and it was frustrating, right? So I think instinctively, the more you get wound up on these things, and as David Burns would say, the dial goes up to 100, and the all or nothing thinking and the cognitive errors happen, and you revert, back and into relapse, then these tools are like reps, I think, and that's what this is doing, and that's what it has the potential to do. And I think the second thing is, even in terms of training and allowing others, I think, there's a lot of people doing training, one-to-one training, but you could scale these and they become personal trainers to even build skills in others. So fundamentally, it's building skills, right? But there's a learning and an engagement and a piece that happens in this process that is quite staggering, I think. And just as a machine could have a conversation that I could come back down to earth, and I can feel as the discussion happens, just the talking. If you listen to David Burns' podcast or his books, the one thing that happens is he provides a compassionate voice in your head. There's a different tone that you get to use and you try out, right down to, and I have embedded it, I'll see if she does it, right down to if you've got a thought you just cannot shake. And David injects humor, and into that humor, then he'll say the staggering thing when I first heard it the one time, you're just stuck in a thought that is absolutely true for you and you can't move from it. For example, I don't know, you're no good, or, maybe this project has to, it feels like you're doing anything, it'll work, whatever, it's life or death, which is not, but just feels like it. Emotional reasoning. But the point being is that he'll turn around and he'll say in these externalization of voices that it might be true, it might fail, might be true that there's signs and everyone disagrees and everyone gives comments, doesn't like it, approval or perfection, it fails, and and it's a total trash and it's a waste of time and nobody likes it, okay, approval. But I think success, it's just a complete fail, right? So that could be true, but he said, but that's not my own issue, right? That's not the real issue. The real issue is listening to your bullshit. The first time you hear that in a therapeutic relationship, and the comedy of that breaks the spell. The idea, I think, and I've heard it a couple of times, is that even when really smart individuals get stuck in a thought that they cannot break, that they perceive to be 100% true, and he will do a role reversal and he'll break it, and he'll talk back to that person that is talking meanly to themselves, and he will talk back in a self-defense manner that just breaks it completely. There was a guy, and I cannot remember what his name was, that taught martial arts, and he was on the Lex Friedman podcast, and he spoke about teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the method of when they train, and he trains, world-class athletes in this. They spend a year, 12 months, on techniques of getting out of holds, right? There's no going, and what he said, which I thought was quite profound and generalizes to life, is that he will teach people to get out of holds for 12 months, because those that can get themselves out of holds, out of trouble, out of submissions, will commit, to going in. If you've got doubt and you're not sure, you won't. And ironically, you think about submission, self-submission, submissive responses, you're submitting to an internal critic. What David is doing is breaking the hold. He breaks you out of the hold You see the comedy and the ridiculousness, and that isn't the enlightenment path. And I thought about what it is that David does, and it seems to be around that piece, the comedy, the breaking of the spell, or the hypnosis as he's referred to it. But there is a moment, and I think it's questioning the ultimate authority that seems to be in your head. Maybe we get trained by this, maybe we're susceptible to authority and credibility and all of that. But just because you've had a thought doesn't mean it is authoritative and credible and emotionally, reasonably locked into it. But which we've seen, it's linked back to values. But the fact that David can do that in the externalization of voices and just show how ridiculous a particular belief or thought is, tying back to the issue isn't the thing, the fail, the relationship fail, the event fail, the whatever it is that's causing distress, regrets, you name it. It's listening to your bullshit. It's listening to your bullshit. And he'll also quote the Buddha many, many years ago in saying that it's listening to your horseshit, cut it out. That's my real issue. And I think once you hear that for the first time, once that is said to you, when you try and present a proposition to why you are no good, not worthy, conditional worth, and that is put to you, the spell is broken. And I think there's just something in magic in that. Anyway, that's what these techniques do. That's what the magic is, to be able to actually get it on the table, unconscious thoughts, laid on for conscious awareness, so that they can be evaluated and put back, reshuffled, defragged, and chucked back in. So I'm going to pause there and we'll continue on and we'll finish this out. Okay, thanks for all that. Can we just finish out? Great techniques, and I think just evaluate my mood again and how I'm feeling.
Certainly. Let's reevaluate your mood and feelings now after discussing these techniques and perspectives. Thinking back to the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned feeling frustration, resentment, anxiety, and worry at a very high intensity, around 99%, and believing in the negative thoughts at about 70 to 80%. Now, after exploring and challenging these thoughts, how would you rate your current level of these emotions? And how strongly do you believe in the negative thoughts now? This will help us assess any changes in your emotional state.
Although I was trying to give it an example and trying to actually apply it to a real life frustration, which, but I sort of dialed them up a bit, I can genuinely say that the belief and the emotions of those that I spoke of are 0 to 10 to 20. They're very low.
It's great to hear that there's been a genuine change in how you feel about the beliefs and emotions we discussed. It sounds like this process has helped shift your perspective, even if the initial emotions were heightened for the example. Reflecting on the entire conversation and the techniques we've explored, how do you feel now about moving forward with your project and managing these emotions in the future? Has this discussion provided you with useful tools or insights for dealing with similar situations down the line?
Yes, definitely. And I think that last bit, as you said, how do I feel about the project? I feel much better. Absolutely, definitely. And feeling about such projects in the future, and just keeping an eye on the perfectionistic thoughts and the all or nothing and the errors in thinking and relapse prevention, it just gives perspective on that, which I've done a lot of work on previously, but still it's just nice to stay in tune. And I think that's what this app is all about. So thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to hear that you're feeling much better about your project and more equipped to handle similar challenges in the future. Keeping an eye on perfectionistic and all or nothing thoughts is a great strategy. It's impressive that you've done considerable work in this area already, and it's clear that you're committed to maintaining and improving your mental and emotional well-being. Remember, staying in tune with yourself and being aware of these thought patterns is a continuous process. It's great that you're using tools like this app to support that journey. If you ever need to revisit these techniques or explore new ones, feel free to reach out. Best of luck with your project and future endeavors.
Great. Thanks. Chris out. And all of that is in text. Okay. So all this text and this discussion has been put down, but really just, put in a vocal manner that you can relate, much better with an individual. So that's it. That's Perceptuaware. We wanted to bring you the people, the things, the events, the places that I think are making our lives better. And this sort of technology is definitely one of those. Credit to David Burns and the team, all Team CBD operators in that regard. I'm not a professional. I've had sessions, training sessions. I'm aware, I've read the books, understand it. I'm not in the realm of these guys. These are trained professionals. Check it out. Check out his podcast. Check out his websites. Feeling Good, Feeling Great books. Fantastic. What I'm here to do is share and really bring to light the technologies and the capabilities that are coming. This is the stuff that I care about, the people, the ideas that are making our lives better. And that's what we've done today. It's a long one, but it was worth it. Thanks for your time. Chris out.